let's talk about two wrestlers. There are two wrestlers. Both of them are looking, you know, same to each other. They are able to fight each other good. But one of the wrestler has an injured leg. Right leg is injured. So if the other wrestler is able to attack his injured leg, he will get an advantage over the other wrestler, right? So this is nothing but the right leg is vulnerable. There is a vulnerability in the right leg that would make one of the wrestlers, you know, weak. So vulnerability is nothing but an issue that would make you weak. And if you are able to make use of that vulnerability, then you can get advantage. You can, you know, actually do stuff. Like let's say you can win, you can get access, you can do anything. So in hacking terms, you would always try to exploit a vulnerability in order to gain access to anything what you want to do. Okay? Right? So before we talk into what types of hackers are there and what they do, there are different types of attacks that you need to understand. Now, why you need to understand? Because based on the requirement. Now, let's say if I want to go, face first, I would say that I want to go in front of my enemy. I want to say that I want to my enemy to know that I have attacked him or her and then do an attack. That would nothing be an active attack. That means I would disrupt the communication. I would let them know that I am doing this and I will do that. That is active attack. Passive attack means you don't really let the enemy know that an attack is happening, but the attack happens, right? And then there is something called as close-in attack. That means if you are closer to the physical proximity of the target system and you do the attack to disrupt access to information, that would nothing be your close-in attacks. Now there is something called as insider attack and distribution attack. Insider attack means you're working in an organization and somebody within your organization is doing the attack. So that means you have a traitor. So that would be an insider attack. Now all this is important because when you talk about cybersecurity, there is a lot of documentation that you need to do. Whether you are working as an penetration tester, as a vulnerability assessment guy, or whoever you are, there is a lot of documentation required, and there these terms are important because you just cannot say that one of the uh, attacker, his name was Roshan, he attacked my computer. No, it was an insider attack. It was done by so and so. That is how you would say. Okay, I'm sorry to use the name Roshan, but yeah, this would be something like that, right? Hey, these slides talk about the information warfare. So today, most of the wars that are fought are all not only physical but are also over the internet. That means you want to destroy the other countries' web servers to make sure that their defense systems are weak because everything is controlled over the internet, right? So there are different types of warfares. Again, we'll talk about this when we come to that particular situation or scenario. But for now, we can just move forward, right? So this is the most important thing that you need to understand and you need to follow as an ethical hacker. So everything has a life cycle. Now let's say I talk about what is the life cycle of water. Then you would say, sir, water would be present in the ocean, lake, or river, wherever it is. And then due to sun, it would get evaporated, and then from clouds, it will rain and then get back to us. Something like that. There is a life cycle. You talk about anything, you talk about the life cycle of a human, then you would say, sir, a child is born, then he grows into a man or a woman, and then they reproduce, and then they become parents, and then for them the child is born, and the cycle continues, right? So for everything there is a cycle. Similarly, there is very, very important that you understand about the life cycle of a hacker. And these are the certain steps. When you say about the methodology, indirectly you're talking about the steps an ethical hacker would follow. If you skip this step, let's say I would directly go into, gaining access. No, you're doing stuff wrong there. That kind of hacking would never get you anywhere. So you need to follow certain steps. For example, okay, though this is being recorded, I would like to mention that this is only for example purposes and for understanding purposes. This is a very easy example to understand, but it's kind of sensitive. So if it is sensitive, then I'm sorry. But I would like to still go ahead and explain using this example. So let's say I am somebody who wants to kill a person named X. So how would I kill it? Kill the person X. The first thing what I would do is I would try to hire a contract killer. Now I'm trying to hire a contract killer. I would say uh, if I just hire the contract killer and say, go kill him, would it just directly go there and kill the person? No. So that would be something like gaining access. Again, the example I'm trying to use here will be helpful for you to understanding all these phases. But again, I don't really mean to kill anybody. Just making that clear once again. Right? So we'll go with the same example once again. So let's say I am somebody, I want to kill somebody and I hire a killer, and I would say just go kill somebody. No. So what they would do, the first step is they would do is footprinting. Footprinting is nothing but they would try to get access to what this person does on a day-to-day basis. Let's say the person wakes up at 7 a.m. The target is Mr. X. Mr. X wakes up at 7 a.m. He goes for a walk. He goes to get groceries or whatever. Then he comes, gets ready, go to the office, comes back from office at 9 o'clock, whatever. All such steps are covered under footprinting. In footprinting, you're basically trying to identify your target. You're trying to understand what kind of, when I talk about cybersecurity and computer systems, and in footprinting, you're basically trying to understand what kind of system it is, what IP address it is running on, what kind of different services it is, and then mm, understand your target. This is basically that particular phase, right? Once you do that, you identify that. Then the second step is scanning. That means you try to identify that if there are any vulnerabilities in this. Now, let's say, again, coming back to my example of the contract killer, I've identified my target that every Friday at 9 o'clock in the night, my target goes to the pub. My target comes back at 11 p.m. and then he sleeps. So, let's say my target is having two different uh, like locations where it does. So I am trying to identify a vulnerable place from where I could make an attack. So in the scanning, basically what you're doing is you're trying to identify the places from where you can launch an attack. So scanning and enumeration is basically going to be a combined phase. In this phase, what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify the weak points. Okay. After you do this, now let's say in terms of cybersecurity, if you talk, scanning and enumeration means let's say my target system is running an Apache web server version 7.5.2, for example. So in the enumeration and scanning phase, I was able to identify this, right? So now comes the actual part. Now I know that my target is out of the home from this time to this time. He does this XYZ, and now I want to attack the person. So before I attack the person, I would make a plan. The plan would be that I would attack from behind door or from the front door or from the window or whatever. So based on the vulnerabilities that you have found, now let's say I got to know that Apache 7.5.6 is a service that this particular target system is running. Then what I would simply do is I would search for Apache vulnerabilities. There are a lot of vulnerabilities that are already running. So let's say if I just open up my Google and I type Apache vulnerabilities and I go to this website, I would go to NVD. This is National Vulnerability Database, that is NVD. If I just open up this for you and open up this. So see, let's say my target system is running Apache version 2.4.6 and NVD site is usually down, so that is why it is loading. Give me a moment here. Yeah. Now let's say apart, I got to know that my target machine is running 2.4.6. How did I get to know this? I got to know this because I did the scanning. I did the enumeration. So I got to know all the services that are running on that particular machine. So once I got to know that, then what I did is I tried to search if there are any known vulnerabilities for an Apache HTTP server that is running on version 2.4.6. And then I got to know that, okay, there is an SSRF vulnerability. Okay, what is SSRF and all of stuff we'll be learning. But for today, let's just worry about this part, that is the severity. That means this is a highly high security issue. So when I get to know that my target is having a high severity issue, I'll target that. I'll write or get the exploit access from the internet and try to run an attack. So, in terms of my example as a contract killer, what I would have done is I got to know that on a Friday night, my target goes to a pub, comes back at 11 o'clock, and he's sleeping alone in the night. So now I know that at 11 o'clock on the night on a Friday evening, this person is alone and I can attack him, right? So I'm going to use that window to attack the person. That is nothing but your vulnerability analysis, and then getting the access to the your target. That means here in the case, you're getting access to your vulnerable system. So as soon as you get the access, it wouldn't be like as soon as I enter the door, my target is sitting in front of me, I'll kill him and I'll go out. No, so even if you are entering the house, there may be another room which in which where the person is sleeping, or there might be additional things that you need to take care of, right? So that will nothing be covered under gaining access, escalating privileges, and maintaining access. Now, yesterday in our session, we did talk about sudoers file. I did show you that if you are able to create a user and add to the sudoers file, that means you'll become a root user. You'll become a super user. So that means, let's say you got access to here to the target's home, to the target's machine, and now you became a super user. So that means you are escalating your privileges. You were logged in as a outstand like stranger, but now you got access as an admin. That is nothing but you are escalating privileges. Gaining access is how did you get into that? So that will be by vulnerability exploitation. That is one method. The other method is, remember the shadows and shadow and passwd file. I did show you that there is a password hash present in the shadow file, right? So you got the password hash, you decrypted that, you got the password, and then you directly logged in as a legit user by cracking the password. That is another way you would do it. These are the two ways. And then you escalate your privileges, you become comfortable in your target's computer. But it is important that you maintain the access. Now, why is maintaining access important? Maintaining access is important because now let's say I got access to a machine, and then tomorrow the person figured out that you know somebody has hacked my machine. So what they'll do, they'll immediately maybe delete any unwanted applications or delete any usernames that you don't see or something like that. So then how do I maintain access to that particular computer? I would create a service, I would run something custom that would work only and only for me. So whenever I want, I will launch that service, and then I can always have the six access, even though the way I got in is closed, but I have another way to get into the computer, that is maintaining access. And once you're done with whatever you want to do, you want to clear your logs. That means don't want anybody to know that you were here and you went back. That is nothing but the life cycle of an hacker. And this is really, really important. You need to follow this whether you're working as a professional or as a whatever in cybersecurity. This is really, really important when you report about the others or when you do this stuff, right? Now, why is this important? Because this is important because this would talk to the organization about the different phases that were covered.